Hey, welcome back to the show. I happen to be standing Fort Pickens, Pensacola Beach, not Escambia County, Santa Rosa County. We own the beach, Santa Rosa does. Pensacola is not Pensacola Beach. It's different. Where I'm standing happens to be where the Dominicans first landed, 1559. Immediately upon landing on the beach, they said the Mass. Which Mass? 1559, there was only one Mass. That was the Latin Mass. They began to settle here. Prior to St. Augustine, despite what they might tell you over there, but they got hit by a hurricane. So they packed up their stuff and headed east and settled in St. Augustine. It wasn't until years later that they came back here and started to resettle Santa Rosa County. Hence the name, St. Rose.
Okay, I was at Pensacola Beach, Santa Rosa Island this morning. A little introductory on the cross that's there, but let's get into the actual history. It was in 1559 that the Dominican Friars, they were part of the Luna expedition, and they landed generally in that spot on the beach, immediately said a Latin Mass. There was only one Mass in 1559, and that was the Latin Mass for the Catholics. Now, that cross that's there wasn't erected until later. But insofar as the Dominicans, these are the descendants of St. Dominic de Guzman, to whom Our Lady appeared and gave information and instruction on the rosary, not just to say it, but to preach it, and also provided the five mysteries, the three mysteries, and the five sub-mysteries for each of those. Anyway, the Luna expedition was a 1559 Spanish venture. It consisted of 13 ships and about 1,500 soldiers. When they landed on Santa Rosa Island, they immediately said the Mass. They didn't settle there. They moved up to around Fort Barrancas, which is where NAS Pensacola currently is. By September 19th, they got hammered by a hurricane. They lost a lot of resources, supplies, and food. They sent an expedition north to search for stuff. Literally by 1561, they packed up whatever they had left and headed east and kind of wandered around. By 1564, the French were here, and they set up a colony called Fort Caroline near which is basically where Jacksonville is now. When the Spanish saw that, they were like, nah, because they were bent on being the first settlement. And Pensacola Beach, Santa Rosa County didn't work out for them because of the storms and the weather and the hurricane. And then they saw the French had settled, and they were like, ain't having it. They destroyed Fort Caroline and continued over to St. Augustine and settled there. And so, yes, St. Augustine is the oldest continuous settlement in the continental U.S. as we know it now. Sure, there were settlements already in Canada. There were settlements already in Mexico. And of course, the Indians, the North American Indians, were established throughout the entire hemisphere. But it was Santa Rosa County. They scooted. The French settled in Fort Caroline. And then the Spanish destroyed it and settled in St. Augustine. It wasn't until 1959 that the cross was established on that dune on Santa Rosa Island, and it was by the Knights of Columbus, the De Luna Assembly. That's the fourth degree Knights of De Luna. About 100 people attended the ceremony until there was a torrential downpour, and they all ran for their vehicles. You know, ironically, just as the Dominican Friars and the Spanish expedition, kind of abandoned the area because of, torrential downpour and a hurricane, the very ceremony celebrating the quadricentennial celebration of the landing on Santa Rosa Island, the very ceremony was abandoned by participants because of the weather. Anyway, 1959, the cross was established, and it's still there. It remains there. It's kind of like the legend that here that the Dominican Friars landed on Santa Rosa Island and immediately erected the crucifix and said a Mass. I wish that were true, and I wish that were the same one, but that's not how it goes. Anyway, that's the cross that was established in 1959, celebrating 400 years. and it's still there. Lots of people say, lots of people that live or visit that area, they might say, "Hey, we'll meet you at the beach at a certain time," and that's basically where they mean. That's the meeting place, the cross. So there you have it. We were the first to be uncontinuously settled, but we were the first nonetheless. St. Augustine, eat your heart out. Hey, what are you going to do?